everybody, it's Chris Smith, and this is my review of my new Noble and Cooley drum set. I've had it now since August, so it's been several months. I've tuned it in a bunch of different ways, from really low to really high bop tuning. I've gigged with it, I've put some time into it, and so I thought now was a perfect time to do a kit review of what I think of these drums and why you might want to check them out also. So a little backstory is I had Gretsch drums for the longest time. I had a vintage rewrapped round badge Gretsch kit from the 60s that was great, but the snare drum wasn't great, and frankly having vintage drums made me nervous. Also, the vintage hardware was a pain in the butt. So I sold the vintage drum set and bought a new Gretsch USA custom drum set, which was really wonderful. The hardware still was too heavy for me. The drums sounded good, but I always felt like they didn't resonate as much as I want. I wanted the drums to feel more alive. And I especially felt like the Gretsch, when I played them softly, especially at higher tunings, that they didn't really sing or speak until I hit them harder. And I wanted something that was that would really react to my stick, react musically with resonance regardless of the tuning, whether it was low or high. So I played a Noble and Cooley snare drum for the first time, and then I heard the walnut kit, and I was like, man, I have to get my hands on some of these drums. So I don't endorse Noble and Cooley. Actually, the hip thing is Noble and Cooley doesn't really have endorsers. They gave me an artist pricing for the kit, which made it more affordable, but there's still a very expensive high-end custom drum, but you get what you pay for, as with anything. So I'm not giving this review as somebody who's getting free drums from them. I just believe in their product, which these days, frankly, is kind of rare. I decided to play these because they were the best drums that I'd ever played in my life, and they allowed me to play and get the sound I wanted to in a variety of styles of music, especially jazz. So, sold the Gretsch drums. I ordered these. I think I had to wait maybe 4 months as they were made. They're made masterly by Jay and Nick at Noble and Cooley, just up the road here in Massachusetts. It's a truly American manufacturer. It's a family, father-son duo. Jay does the painting, Nick does the bearing edges. They work together to make these incredible instruments. So the way I decided to go with my Noble and Cooley was I got CD maple toms because I like maple. I like the projection. I like there's low end, but there's also the high end, so it fits all types of music. They project, so I was a little worried about the walnut drums not projecting as much as I would want to outdoors or in a big band. So I went with the maple toms, CD maple toms, which I love them. The bearing edge is a 45-degree bearing edge, which I was leery of because growing up I had numerous kits before I got a DW kit, and I could never tune that thing for jazz. Like, no knock necessarily on DW, but it had these 45-degree bearing edges, and the drums really seemed to be made for like alternative rock. Because if I tuned them down, they would all ring forever, and it was great if you were playing outside. But to tune them up, the 12-inch tom would always get choked, the floor tom would always ring way too long, and I just had a hard time with 45-degree edges with jazz drums. These drums, though, I have to say, I've had zero problems. I crank them, I tune them to bop tuning. They still sing. They sing and they ring about the same length. I don't have the floor tom ringing three to four times longer than the 12-inch tom or any of that stuff. I found them very easy to tune. I love them tuned up for bop. I love them tuned down for big band or fusion. So these CD maple toms are really, really, really incredible. On the bass drums, now I got a Horizon series bass drum, which is maple with an inner ply of mahogany. Now check this out. So the inside of this drum is this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful mahogany. And the reason I did that was because I don't usually tune my bass drums really, really, really high. I always prefer a little bit more of the Shelly Manne, Mel Lewis version of bass drum tuning. So my bass drums are generally a little lower in pitch, not that super high cranked thing. But these bass drums with the mahogany on the inside, it really amplifies and brings out the low pitches in the wood and in the tone of the drum. And I was a little leery because I didn't know how much wood would really matter, but I honestly have to say that this 20-inch Noble and Cooley Horizon with the mahogany on the inside gets as close to the 20 round badge Gretsch bass drum that I loved. I loved the 20 round badge Gretsch bass drum from the 60s. That was it for me. And this 20 with the mahogany on the inside gets as close to that sort of vintage low, full resonant punchy sound as I've found. So I'm thrilled. It's like that's the one piece of the Gretsch kit that I regret getting rid of is that bass drum. And this 20 is filling that void for me. So it's awesome. The snare drum, this is a 6x14 Tulip solid shell snare drum. So one piece of wood steam bent. And I absolutely love the snare drum. The tone is right in there, kind of mapley, but maybe a little darker. It's a very thin shell. The lugs, as you can see, there's just one node at the bottom, and then it's just a tube. So there's minimal hardware, and it makes this drum very, very light to carry around to a gig, which is important for me. You know, a lot of us are taking, New York drummers at least, are taking our snare drum on the train. Or maybe you take your snare drum in the car with cymbals, you know what I mean? But I don't want this super, super heavy 15-pound brass snare drum when I'm going to play a gig. That might be cool for a studio, but man, I have other ways I want to work out not carrying my snare drum. This solid shell Tulip snare drum is so great because it's light and it sounds amazing. Tune it up, tune it down. There's no tuning that's bad with it. I love it. Now, additionally, I got an alloy classic snare drum. So this is a 4x14 metal snare drum, and the hip part to me is not just that it sounds great, but they can match the color with all the rest of my drums. So I have a matching alloy snare drum, which is a little brighter, more projection, good for outside gigs, good for funk, good for rock. It's good for jazz too. I prefer the Tulip for the jazz, but I love this, and I think it's such a luxury to be able to have a matching metal snare drum. It's incredible. A couple of the other things that I really love about the drums. The hardware is really easy to use, really thoughtful, and not heavy. The floor tom legs are the pearl brackets with the pearl legs, and they're really lightweight. I like that the floor tom has the suspension with the circle in the floor tom foot, but even with the suspension, it's nice and sturdy. It's not wobbling around. The bass drum spurs are lightweight, simple design, and I love them. They also don't have this massive rubber foot. I see bigger and bigger bass drum feet on bass drums, and it's like nobody really needs that. If you do, you're kicking a bass drum too hard. So this is minimal. It's classic, it's easy to use, it's small, it's lightweight, it will fit in any case. Lastly, the brass tube lugs and the snare drum throw-off are all made by Noble and Cooley in-house. Handmade brass lugs. And I thought, well, I loved the look of them, but I was worried about the weight. they're not heavier than anything else. I would actually have to say they might be lighter. For sure these drums are lighter than my USA Custom. That's with these brass tube lugs. So if you got the other lug without the tube, it would probably be even lighter. But it's a very, very thin shell with a master bearing edge, perfectly smooth bearing edge. And these brass fittings are just incredibly well made, incredibly uniform. The tension rods go in super smooth, they stay in tune, and I couldn't be happier with them. So I have a couple clips of me playing these 3 toms. I have some other clips from a while ago where I have the drums tuned, the 4-piece drums tuned up a little higher as for the bebop thing, so you can hear that. CD maple toms, the Horizon bass drums, the tulip wood, the alloy, the custom finish. They can make any color, sparkle, lacquer, burst, you name it. It's up to you completely what your color looks like, and they work with you during the process so that you get exactly what you wanted. I wanted these to look like sand on a beach, you know, where you look at the sand and there's light and there's dark, there's silver, there's gray, there's all these things. But from far away, it kind of looks like one color. But when you get in there closer, it looks much, much different. So that's what's going on here with this finish. It's like it looks lighter outside, it looks darker in the club. There's silver sparkle, there's gold sparkle. It's grayish. It's grayish, and it's perfect. I love it. It goes with everything. So I'm in love with these drums. If you have questions about them or want to hear me play something different with them, let me know, but I wanted to throw something out there for you jazz drummers who may be looking at Tama Star or Yamaha or Gretsch USA Custom. Please get in touch with Nick at Noble and Cooley and talk to him about what you're looking for, because it's important to really support the makers of these instruments, especially because they're right here in the States, right in Massachusetts. I hope to give them some business by making this, because these are the best jazz drums I've ever played, and I've played a lot of different types of jazz drums, and I believed in them so much I bought the set with my own hard-earned money. So I hope this has been cool. Like I said, if you want me to play something or have questions, shoot me an email, chrissmithjazzdrums@gmail.com. Otherwise, go check out Noble and Cooley. They are incredible, and I'm very appreciative of their fine instruments. So, hope this is cool. Talk to you later. Check out the drum hang. See ya. Bye.